Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Dean Rogers. Welcome back to the Dean Rogers Show. Today, I've got a red-headed special guest, Mr. Bob McIntosh. What's up, Bob?
What's happening? Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Good to see you, man. We've known each other for a long time. You told the story the other day, so I'm going to tell it now too. A fun
Good
story. The first time we met, I had known about you because of the coaching program I was in and a part of. We'll get into that later. But knew about you, and you had put out a call to action asking if anybody had an Xbox that you could borrow. And being that I was married, and all dreams of playing video games had kind of left and gone out the door because Real Housewives was taking priority of the TV. I was like, yeah, I could lend you my Xbox. And so you saved me in your phone as Xbox guy, which we we realized when we saw each other. We rediscovered after not seeing each other for a while, and we're like, hey, do we have each other's numbers? And I was in there as Xbox guy. That's too good.
Which, by the way, is funny. I was thinking about that after I told that on mine, and I was like, it's funny because I think about it. I used to play video games all the time, like in college, even like constantly.
Dude, I could have been. So in today's world, today's environment of what the video game world has become, I'm not joking. I'm not like overstating this. I could have been professional. I really could have. I could have got paid to play. I was the guy playing Call of Duty, getting nukes. The guy, the jerk who got a nuke after like being in the game for 5 minutes when you're playing team deathmatch or whatever. Like I was the dude getting nukes and ending the game early because I just annihilated, 50 people without dying. Like I was good, dude. Yeah. Then I had to grow up and like
different world, different times. I think back to that. That's a whole different conversation for another time, I guess.
Yeah. No, dude, if it was the environment today, I would have loved to keep that going. Those were some fun times. But anyways, if you guys don't know Bob, he started in real estate, lost a bunch of money on his first deal. I have some experience losing a bunch of money. Then he got good at what he did, figured out what he did wrong, tweaked that. You moved to the entire opposite side of the country. You've transitioned into learning how to do digital marketing, raising money. Fun fact, I don't want to miss this. You used to hack banks. We definitely have to touch on that. And you were an instrumental part of building one of the largest real estate education companies in the nation. And now you do a done-for-you service for real estate investors on how you can build your business, do deals, and scale. So a lot of great stuff. I can't wait to dive into more details. I know a lot of surface level stuff, but that's why this stuff is fun, is learn more. If you guys want to connect with Bob, you can go to Go3DC. Go the number 3DC.com/Bob McIntosh. So you guys can connect with Bob there. We'll have it up on the screen so you can see it in the show notes as well. But dude, let's go back. I don't know if hacking banks was before you got into real estate or what, but
It was that was the job that I had prior to going full time in real estate. It was cool. Fun. Short story is I was in school in Rochester, New York, at RAT, for anyone who knows that, and I was a member. I was the president of our.
Is that like a nerd school or
association.
something or what?
Very, very much nerd.
And
school.
the
Rochester.
president. Wow, you really were up there, huh?
Oh, all in there, right? Got the resume of stuff.
I love that.
Yeah. So for our student association, I got connected to a graduate who had graduated, and part of the thing is the degree I had, which is management information systems, is very versatile. You can kind of do a lot of different things.
It is, yeah.
And so the goal was to say, hey, here's people doing all kinds of different things. And I remember she came in and she started talking about this, and I was just mesmerized by the whole idea of it. And then she got done, and I was like, I'm going to do that. So literally, like, her company was the only place that I applied post college, the only job I applied for.
Wow.
And I got it. And and it was like, it's kind of a crazy thing to think about, to say, like, I mean, how insane was I that I only applied to one place, but it worked out. Got in, did it for a bunch of years, had a lot of fun. And there's a lot more to it than hacking per se, but it's the easiest way to explain it to the non-tech initiated. So Yeah, it did, I had a lot of fun, but what it did was it allowed me to travel, see a lot of places, and that was always good. And then, for most of us, right, we start out with a job and it funds the lifestyle while we build the business. And that was certainly the case in this situation.
Yeah, that's cool, dude. Um, that explains, a lot of your digital background now, right? And understanding how all those things tie together and work and, kind of reverse engineering things. So that's really cool, man. So how did you discover real estate then? How did you go from that environment to say, what sounds really great is I want to invest in real estate. I want to flip houses.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to leave college with about 10 grand, courtesy of my parents and grandparents. My family took care of a lot of stuff for me, which I am infinitely grateful for,
Huge
even to
blessing.
this day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I had this money sitting in my account and I was like, well, what do I do with it? And most everyone I knew in my circle at that point was like, oh, like go to Europe for a couple months and backpack or like, and I was like, no, but I can't, like I got this job that pays well, and it's fun. And then I don't want to miss that either. That's obviously a huge opportunity long term. And so I was like, I waffled around for a bit, like just trying to figure out what the heck to do. And I finally stumbled on Rich Dad Poor Dad and he talked about real estate from a investment standpoint. And I never thought about it that way at all. Like it wasn't even on my radar. And I was
Crazy,
like,
right?
huh, real estate. That sounds interesting. So, I call my dad because, and he was an entrepreneur himself for a long time. I knew he knew a lot about a lot of things. And I was like, hey, like, I want to buy some real estate. He's like, okay. And like, this is 2008. So this is, like just to give you guys like, first of all, everything's like falling apart at this point. That's right around
Yeah.
that time. Everything is there's education companies didn't exist, not like they do today. There was no YouTube videos around this stuff, or if there was, they were very in between. There's books that you would buy, like Robert Allen and I mean, shoot, who else? I mean, like just like some of the OG people you probably haven't heard from in a long time, but those folks. And so I was like, yeah, I want to buy real estate. And so my dad stumbled across his guy who built his house owned a duplex in my hometown. And he's like, yeah, he's selling it for 110,000. Numbers look good. Like, do you want to buy it? I was like, I guess. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, right? But sure. So I bought this duplex. And that was, again, I put $10,000 down because you could do that back then. That was a thing. Or actually, I think I put like 11,000 down, which is 10% because you could get a loan. I had my W-2 income. So I was bankable at that point in time. And got a loan, and that was my first thing. And I was like, okay, this is great. About 6 months later, I was like, man, I'm making about $200 a month. So it's not anything crazy, but it's passive income hitting my, hitting my account every month. And I was like, this is cool. I need a whole lot more of these a whole lot quicker. But I was like, but I don't have $10,000 again to put down because, I was like, even though I was making good money, I was still living in Chicago. It was very expensive. Money disappeared a lot quicker than I realized it would. So, that was the foray from there into flipping, which we then did our first flip, lost, I don't know, at least $40,000. It might actually be more because we weren't necessarily keeping track at that point in time. We had no idea what we didn't know. And, but then found a course, online on eBay for $100. It was before, and I like this. It was I'll just say it was Fortune Builders, but it was before Fortune Builders was Fortune Builders. It was just like, hey, I bought this rehabbing, like my dad found it on eBay, bought it for $100 from some guy used, listened to the audio CDs because that's how long ago this was.
Yeah.
And, and I was like, I remember listening to him and he's like, yeah, don't do this and don't do this and don't do this and don't do this. And I was like, I did that. Oh man, now I see why I messed up. Kind of figured out some of the holes and then, patched up the holes, much like I did in my job. And we got better at what we did, started doing more deals. And, in the meantime, I ended up moving to LA. So I had to figure out how I could add to the business. And that's where digital marketing came in because 3,000 miles away, you're not going to walk properties or, do anything then. And by the way, again, going back, like this is not when, like Zoom didn't exist. Like if you wanted a video call, you were Skyping somebody. Cause that was a thing. It was internet speed was way slower. So video quality was way lower, way more compressed. It was a very different time back then.
Yeah. It's interesting to think. I think a lot of us that know each other got started around similar times within, a handful of years. And just the level of information, technology, all those things were so much different. And
so much harder. than it is
So
now.
much harder.
I feel like that's everyone always says that, like, oh, back in my day, I walked uphill 2 ways, whatever. But I really do honestly think like I remember, in the 2 counties that we've purchased 98% of the houses that we've bought or flipped or worked on and even now own as rentals. Until sometime around COVID, you couldn't even go online to find property data. It wasn't available online. They were like, no, we don't, like the computer system. This is no joke. You would go to the county courthouse. It was an old Unix system, like command line prompt. And that was how you found property record. And then you would print it out on like one of those old ones with the, holes on the side of the paper. And it was like, and you had to like tear off the side. Like that's how you got property report, until 2020.
Yeah. No, it's pretty crazy. I think what's interesting about that is because there was less information, it was harder. I could argue there was less competition, right?
For sure.
But a lot more effort. Now, information, getting in front of motivated sellers is easier, but there's more competition. So it's almost like the scales continue to balance each other out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
my numbers were easier back then, right? Like it took less interactions to close a single deal because there was less. Now it's more interactions, but I can find a lot more people too. So
yeah. No, it's quite interesting. So so you move across the country, right? That's a good idea when you're starting into a new business and you're going to be flipping houses, which a lot of time, a lot of people consider you need to be physically there. You need to see it, touch it. Manage people. So tell me how you figured out being far away, scaling this business, how digital marketing was going to help you, and how raising money was part of your journey and your skill set that you developed.
Yeah. So I had boots on the ground. So, my dad was still in Buffalo and my mom, although she didn't participate in the early years, she got in a little bit later on once we kind of had more for her to do, because she has a very great design eye, but she has a very expensive taste. So not always a good thing when you're flipping low-end houses.
This is my wife. Yeah, this is my wife. She's like, you should let me do this. I'm like, we do the cheap stuff. You don't like any of that stuff, and that's what works for us.
The countertops you want exceeds my entire budget for the whole house. So no,
exactly.
Yeah. So I had boots on the ground. So that certainly makes it easier. You've got to have someone you can trust, so I had that, right? What I realized was 2 things. One, at least when I got started, and even still, I would say today this is still somewhat the case. The internet's an untapped resource for lead generation in most cases, especially when it comes to SEO. We look at all the deals we've done, and probably about 40% came from digital marketing. Of that, probably 60% of that 40 came from SEO efforts. And they're great. It takes time and effort and energy. And it didn't happen the first few years, but over time it did. I also, realized then, websites were super important. So I had some fun building our website. My mentor told me it sucked, had to kind of eat that a little bit and then redo it. But I started to realize that there was an opportunity for us to leverage the internet to get deals. And even back then, you could do a lot more on Facebook than you can now, because you could run hyper targeted ads. That it was before they changed the rules and all that. Yeah. So that helped too.
Target one person's house that you've been trying to get a hold of.
You could. I know. So legit story. Like we would do that kind of stuff. Like upload. You could upload a list as small as 20 people and put 19 men and 1 woman and just target the woman, or vice versa, whatever. Like there's some crazy stories about that. It's fun to share, but a different time. But yeah, so just got good at that. And then so what I realized is, okay, like, look, we can find all these deals, and that's great. And we connected with a lot of agents. I learned early on about email marketing. So that's how we connected. I think still today we've got about 2,600 agents in the Buffalo market on my email list. And so just learn to use the internet to our advantage, because no one was using it at that point in time. And I would argue even today, people are not using the internet. Still, they're using it more, but still not as much as is available if you actually took advantage of everything that exists. I would say the average investor taps into less than 20% of what's available to them from an internet marketing standpoint. And most of it's, in my opinion, is because either A, they don't think they're tech savvy enough, or they've overcomplicated it in their head, or B, they simply just don't know that they can do these things because it seems like not very many people talk about that aspect. Did that. And then also, obviously, for me, like being 3,000 miles away, internets can be done anywhere. I can do all this stuff from any place. So that didn't matter. And then what I also realized is that, our market, the Buffalo market, the pricing is very, very low. It's actually some of the lowest pricing in the whole country. Pros and cons to that. Pro is it's very easy to raise money for low price point houses. Con is you make one mistake or miss one thing, and all of a sudden your $20,000 profit, which is very average, eviscerates very quickly. It's not all rainbows and unicorns, but I also realized that being out here in LA, when I tell someone, oh, I need a loan to buy a house, and they say, well, how much? And I say, I need 120,000. They go, okay, great. So am I going to be like second, third, fourth position? I'm like, no, that's the whole thing. They're like, what do you mean the whole thing? I was like, that's buying the house and fixing it up. That's everything. That's payments. That's insurance. That's taxes. That's literally everything I need. And they would just look at you like, wait, how? Right? Because in the West Coast, but LA or even San Diego or any of the some of these bigger markets, it's like that's not even a down payment for most people, let alone buying and renovating an entire house. And so it opened people's eyes to the opportunities that exist outside of their markets, especially from an investment standpoint. And so that got good. And then subsequently, what ended up happening just by default was, I've got all these loans in faraway places. So we had to get good at the internet aspect of communication with our lenders and letting them see deals and building little portals so they could log in and check out things. Cause again, this is before a lot, like now there's software that do all that for you. But back then, it didn't. Like literally there's a thing called Google Sites, which I don't even know if it still exists or not, but it's basically like these little mini websites you could build within your Google account. And so I'd build them for every property that we had lenders on so they could check in and see things, because portals like that didn't really exist at the time, or if they did, they were for big companies, spending tens of thousands a month, which we weren't there yet. So kind of just had to make it work. And the crazy part, and I go back to this, and I say this a lot in a lot of these podcasts, but I would say still not that many people are taking advantage of what does exist for internet marketing with real estate investors. They do the most basic bare bones stuff, which is fine. You need to do that stuff, but there's so much more that could be done to generate more money, to generate more leads, and find more people and just build more authority.
So let's talk about that. Let's try to peel back the onion. Let's talk about what are these things that people are missing out on. So maybe start with what are the things that most people are doing? And then what are some bullet point items of the things that people just don't know how to do, or limiting beliefs, or they don't even know about it at all?
Yeah. So here, let's start here. Websites. Everyone understands how powerful a website is, but what most people are not doing is they're not capitalizing on having a great website. Understand that your half-ass attempt on GoDaddy or Wix or any of those for that matter, when you put forth a low quality website, it speaks volumes about who you are to people, whether you want it to or not. By default, they're looking at you going, oh, it's a crappy website. You must be a crappy business. You could be the best thing since sliced bread in your industry. But if your website doesn't communicate that, you're already leaving money on the table. And everyone always says, well, I'm not getting any leads from my website. Well, of course you're not, because either A, it's badly designed, B, there's no great call to action, or C, you're misunderstanding how your website's actually working for you. So first and foremost, understand that your website may not be a direct lead generator, but it will absolutely cost you business, because people will they'll look up your site, and then they'll not call you back from your marketing that they got from you in a direct mail or a postcard or a bandit sign or wherever, right? Because they say, you must not be credible if your website looks like this. So one thing that everyone's doing, but not taking advantage of fully. Okay. That's number one. Number two, SEO. I can't stress this enough. The folks that do SEO effectively have a wealth spring of leads, especially for motivated sellers, that no one else does. And the cost is so insignificant compared to the long-term gain. But most investors have a short-term mindset. So Let me break down exactly what I mean by that. SEO takes time, takes effort. Like you're not going to put up a blog post today, buy a couple backlinks and be first in Google and make millions of dollars. Like if it worked that way, I'd be on my yacht in the Caymans right now or whatever, right? Like it just doesn't quite work like that. We've got to put time and effort and energy into building this process out. Now, the thing though is that SEO is a cumulative effort over time. Let's say that you invest $15,000 or $20,000 a year into SEO for your business. Well, as real estate investors, the reality is that kind of investment should lead to 1 to maybe 3 deals a year. Okay, on average. So if you, even at 1 deal, for most of us, 20 grand investment for probably at least 20 grand, if not more, back out on the back end of a real estate deal makes a lot of sense. If I can get 2 or 3 deals, even better. But here's where it gets better. This is where people get it wrong. They think I'm spending 20 grand a year to get 1 deal. No, you're spending 20 grand a year to get 1 deal forevermore, so long as you continue to spend 20 grand a year. Now, let's just say it's 1 deal a year and you're spending 20 grand. Well, year 1, it's 1 deal. Year 2, that 20 grand produces 1 more deal plus the one you did before because you're adding on. And then year 3, you know what I mean? And the other thing though is as time goes on and you do it more consistently long term, 1 becomes 1.5, becomes 1.8, becomes 2.3, becomes 4 very quickly. And now all of a sudden you're getting, let's say 5, 6, 10, 15 deals a year from something that you did 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. But realize that that's on top of whatever else that you're doing. So it's a great, like you have to be willing to say, I'm going to play the game for 10 years, knowing that in 10 years, that might equate out to literally 20 or 30 deals a year coming into my business. Whether you want them or not, you can wholesale them or whatever. You can just sell the leads. But the long-term gain is there for those who are willing to play the game, but you have to be consistent for a long time to do it. And for most investors, they don't think that long-term. They think, oh, I need a deal today. Okay, right. But what else are you doing to get a deal tomorrow so that you don't have to think about, I need a deal today, tomorrow?
Yeah. So the light bulb went off for me, couple years ago when I realized that, more and more people are getting into the game. They're going back to building out the list, doing all this, stuff to direct mail, cold call, text, do all that kind of stuff. And at least in my market, there's a certain point where you've already hit everybody and you've already reached out to them multiple times. And it's like, dude, this isn't an evergreen type of list,
Right.
And yes, it's all about timing. Yes, we'll continue to do those things because they do continue to generate deals, but how do we make it so that we can have deals coming to us and it be a forever thing, like you said? And so SEO light bulb finally went off in my head a couple of years ago and I've been investing in it ever since. And just as a testament, about a month and a half ago, we had $100,000 wholesale deal that we closed, a wholesale deal. And the purchase price was $111,000, right? The sales price was $211 if you can do easy math. But it was through our website. And we asked the seller multiple times, are you sure it wasn't somewhere else? Or, how did you find us? And I could track the lead and see that it came through the website, but are you sure you didn't see us on a postcard or some other type of advertising that we did? Nope. It was through the website. And sure enough, and we've done many other deals through our website too. It's that long-term vision. And at first, especially if you don't have the money for it, it's a hard pill to swallow. But if you're in the position where you can start to really build your brand, build your presence and have the long-term in mind, you're not here just for a quick, easy buck. Dude, it'll pay off.
They'll crush it. I always tell everyone, imagine how much money you're spending on wholesale fees and what you could do with that same amount of money to generate your own leads, right? And not have to pay the price that you're paying $100,000 more than you could have gotten yourself. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, right? Hey, wholesalers, shoot your shot, get what you can, right? I respect that for sure. But when I look at any other investor, I'm like, that's great. Wholesales are a great starting point, but what else can you do to generate your own leads? Because that's always going to result in more profit for you because you're not having to pay somebody else's price. You're paying your price.
Right. Yeah. So you talked about SEO. You talked about having your website. What else can someone be doing?
Yeah. And so the next thing I would say is social media, but specifically, everyone wants social media to get leads for like sellers because that's what it seems like everyone wants. But just understand that social media is not going to get you leads for sellers. It doesn't work that way. Not really, right? Like, sure, we can maybe run some paid advertising on Facebook with lists that we upload, that we upload. Yeah, okay, sure. There's some aspect to it, but social media for you as an investor, if you're listening or watching this, it should be for two things: to build your investor buyers list and to raise capital. Those two things can be done very easily, very effectively, and subsequently have a complementary effect upon your business because we all need more money. We all need more investors in our list, whether it's that we're buying from or selling to or involving with. I've also found that investors make great lenders. Why? Because they get it. I don't have to sell them the idea of real estate as an investment, right? They get it. They're already doing it. So those two things, and understand that social media is your free, and I say free, with a caveat. The platforms are free. Obviously, it takes time or paying someone for their time to make it work, but it's a free platform. You don't have to pay to be on social media, and it will absolutely boost your authority. Boosting your authority boosts your attention. Boosting your attention brings you opportunity. Case in point, I've had two different hotel offers brought to me that both looked great. Neither one of them worked out, unfortunately, which is not, sometimes the case. But just because I was like, I posted about, hey, I'm doing this, and I'm looking for these, right? People said, oh, hey, here you go, right? Same with, we're working on some self-storage stuff right now. I get people that are bringing me self-storage things. Again, not all of them work out, but hey, the simple fact is that just by being present online, people are now bringing opportunities to me that didn't even exist in my world for no cost. And when I say no cost, again, like, I'm not actively having to market to get these things like we do with many of our leads. And then further, like, that attention opens up more opportunities for lenders, for podcasts, for speaking, which just further perpetuates the circle even more. So focus your social media efforts on those things, and you're going to see traction that helps when combined with the other two things I just talked about.
Yeah, I couldn't be more of a believer in that because, again, something I really neglected, didn't fully understand. I wasn't some influencer. I wasn't dancing on social media, doing anything like that, doing the trendy
We're shaking
stuff.
that butt on TikTok?
Hey, I could shake the butt, just wasn't doing it on TikTok. But, wasn't doing the trendy videos of, the funny couple stuff or like the funny kind of meme kind of stuff. But I hadn't really fully grasped the opportunity, which is building your brand. And you hit the nail on the head. Like, when you do that and you're less focused, because we get one track minded of, oh, social media, I want to get sellers. Like, people are going to sell me their house through social media, and you're just saying, hey, look, guys, I can buy your house for cash. Like, filming your selfie video. You're not going to really, that's not who you're going to attract. You're going to attract your audience, your peers, others that are in the industry. And if you're building the brand of like, hey, this is what I'm doing, these are the opportunities, the type of deals that I'm doing. These are ways that we can work together. These are opportunities for you to work with me. Then that's a whole nother game. And it opens up so many other doors. Deals start, you start attracting deals, attracting money, different types of opportunities that you didn't otherwise really think of, It becomes a way more fun game when you start to get into that personal brand. No doubt about 100%. It.
And also, like, think about this too, right? Like, even if you could attract sellers on social media, do you really want 100,000 motivated sellers as your followers? Like, let that sink in for a second. Yeah. Like, they're going to sell you a house one time. I mean, hopefully they'll never have to work with you ever again, because for the most part, the only time someone works with us as an investor is when they're in some sort of financially distressed situation. Like, if they're not in a financial distressed situation, almost never are they going to actually work with someone like us, because it just that's the way it works. Now, of course, there's the occasional exception to that rule, but for the most part, like that. So, do you really want a bunch of people who are only ever going to work with you one time, hopefully ever, and that never again following you on social media? Probably not.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Okay, so you develop these skills, you understand how it works, it helps you grow your business. Talk about helping build the largest real estate education company. Like, what was involved in that? What did that look like?
Yeah. So specifically within that, I built a platform that taught students how to do kind of what we're talking about here is how do I leverage digital marketing as an investor specifically to build my business. And the fun thing and frustrating thing, because it's simultaneously both, is the world of digital marketing is constantly changing. Even just in the last 4 months,
That's
like what I would
crazy.
have talked about in January is different than what I'm talking about, today to a certain extent. And so understand that this world of digital marketing as an investor is always changing. And so even if you plug into the best education that exists today in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, it's probably going to be something different again. So it's important to always stay in touch. And that was one of the things that I had a lot of fun doing, and why what we built was successful is because I geek out on this kind of stuff, right? Like I'm the guy that's up at 2 o'clock in the morning, still watching, Instagram and TikToks, not because I'm sucked into the algorithm, but because I'm like, okay, well, what about this? Like, why is he doing this? Let me go to this guy's account. What is he doing there? Okay, why is that getting more traction? Let me read the comments. Oh, that's why. Okay, like I'm like social engineering the entire thing to figure out what's actually working and why it's working, so that I can go back to my clients and say, or my audience and say, hey, this is what I'm finding. This is what we're seeing. This is what's happening right now in the space, and everything changes at such like. And by the way, it's all a weird circle of marketing in social right now, especially like Facebook's now back to being the best platform, even though it was the crappiest maybe about 8 months ago, right? Instagram's now the worst, even though 8 months ago it was the best. TikTok had a brief surge in there and it kind of fell back off again, and now it's kind of climbing back again. And it's like this weird, like, I don't know, everything changes constantly. But what works for that is staying on top of it. And I don't mean for most of you as investors that that's what you should be doing, because if all you did was the same thing I did, you would have no time to actually invest.
Right. So, so let's talk about your business. You got a done for you real estate service, right, for real estate investors. Let's talk about that. Let's kind of unpack that a little bit. What does that look like for you to go work with these other real estate investors? What kind of service do you provide?
Yeah, so we have 4 core services within our business. We can do a lot of things, but the 4 core services are: we'll build you a great website. In fact, even if you're a brand new investor, we have a very low cost intro website that has everything that you need ready to go. It's not super, it's not highly customized or anything like that. It's very standardized, but it gets you off the ground and going very quickly without having to spend a bunch of money. Because I think that's, again, one of the things I see happen a lot is like, you don't need to go drop 10 grand to have a website today, right? Is a $10,000 website worth it? Sure. We build them all the time, but for most investors who are just getting started, I'd rather you roll that 10 grand into more marketing, get more deals, and come back to me after 4 or 5 deals and reinvest it at that point, right?
Yeah.
So we can do websites. And then I truly believe in one of the things we didn't get into yet, which is we have our own CRM, which is focused on helping you communicate better with sellers, lenders, investors, buyers, contractors, all of these folks, right? Because communication is key. If you do not communicate with your potential audience, you will not get deals. Like and when I say deals, could be seller deals, could be investors buying your deals, it could be PMLs lending you money on your deals. Like they're all deals at the end of the day, right? But we have to communicate with them in an effective manner. So we've plugged in sort of the systems that I've developed to help make that happen faster, easier, and more automated. And then we also do SEO, which we just talked about a little bit before, and we do paid advertising. And we can do a lot of other things, but that's the core services of what we offer. Now, when it comes to social media, we do have some stuff, although honestly, we're focusing more on these other 4 areas. Why? Because they're generating more revenue for people off the bat, and that's kind of what we're really about.
Okay. So if someone is, what's the ideal type of person that comes to you? Someone that comes to you, they need help with their business. What does that investor look like?
Yeah, so I would say it falls into 2 categories. First is you're a brand new investor, you're trying to get off the ground, trying to get either your first deal, or you're on like maybe your sub 5 deals at this point in time, right? So you're still in the firmly in the realm of new. And you're like, hey, I'm ready to, make my mark, online. I really want to make sure that people know who I am. They can find me, and, start building that brand of your business. That would be ideal customer number 1 or client number 1. The second is, let's say you're, I'd say a mid-level to even a more advanced level investor. You've got, a bunch of deals in your belt and you're like, hey, I'm ready to take it up a notch. I want to generate more leads, more authority, more attention. I really want to build this thing out. That's sort of the second phase that we can help you in.
Sweet. Okay. Well, perfect, man. So again,
And again, just real quick, just in the
yeah,
digital space, right? Like, I'm not a direct mail guy. Like, I can point you to some people for direct mail. I have connections and all the other things, but in the digital space, that's, if you want to help there, that's what we do.
awesome. So you said people can find you at go3dc.com. So that's go, the number 3dc.com/Bob McIntosh. Dude, it's been great to have you on, diving through your story. What are some kind of parting words you want to leave for the audience?
Yeah. So the biggest thing I can tell you is the next 12, I don't know exactly when this is coming out, but, in 2023, 2024, maybe even 2025, right? There's massive opportunity for all of us as investors to really pick up a lot of wealth. But the people who do that, the people who are going to be able to do that, are the ones who are going to take digital marketing seriously, because it's going to enable you to connect with more people who have the opportunities you need or want, and have the money that you need to make all this happen. Because let's be real, unless you're independently wealthy, for most of us, we need to borrow money to buy all these properties. So using the internet to capture both of those is going to be your best bang for your buck over the next 12 to 36 months. And I would love to be a part of that. The site that Dean just gave has my contact information. You have my cell phone, you have my email, you have all my socials. Reach out to me whatever way you prefer, and let's just chat and see what you got going on. And I'll be transparent with you about whether I can or can't help you.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, you got me excited about investing over the next couple of years. Hopefully, someone is listening to this and could really use your help and connect with you. So again, thanks for being on. Until next time, everybody. Peace.